welcome to Slayerfest 98. I'm Ian Carlos Crawford.
I'm Dr. Ashley K. Smalls, and we have here one of Ian's boyfriends and TV and film editor,
Mike Patterson. Hi.
Hi, Mike. And we also have writer, content creator, professional wingwoman at #open.
Hey.
Say your name.
Oh, Gabby. Oh, I didn't know what the intro was. It's me. I have Alexa.
So we're here to talk episode 3 of X-Men 97, Fire Made Flesh. Ashley, you and I talked about the first 2 episodes last week. Gabby, I'm curious, what did you think of the first 2 episodes? And then what did you think of this one?
Okay, I mean, the first 2 episodes were amazing. I didn't think about anything else for the rest of my week. It's just been X-Men. Yeah. There's just like an X-Men jingle at all times in the back of my brain. They were perfect episodes, but it's so, clear how they're kind of breaking a lot of characters down to build them up. And that was so hard. But also the mature storytelling is it for me, because I've been rewatching the original and I was like, some of these storylines aren't, hitting me really as an adult. And that watching this, I'm like, this is good for the whole family. Like, this is mature storytelling, but it's also really cool. I don't hate Cyclops as much, but still, he's not my homie. Wolverine is still way too pouty. I need him to get over Jean Grey. It's been so long. Like meet someone else.
It's funny. My ex texted me because he was like, I know you've watched X-Men, so like, am I going to like it? And I was like, I think you will. And he was like, well, I think Cyclops and Jean Grey are still insufferable and Storm and Gambit are my favorites. And I was like, wait, I actually kind of liked him in this. And he was like, no, fuck him.
Yeah, I have a few people who are just very much on the, matter of fact, they got very angry this past week with all the Cyclops propaganda that was popping up. That was like, I don't like this. Because one of the writers or story, I can't remember what their role in the show is, but their involvement in at least the first 2 episodes. The matter of fact, the first episode, the scene where Cyclops comes in fighting because Sunspot was kidnapped, and come to find out that fight, the way that they mapped it out was to the beat of Noriega, of that Pharrell. It's a song with Pharrell and Noriega, and but anyways, someone decided to put the fight to the actual beat.
Oh.
And it was awesome.
Cool.
And even I was like, perhaps I misjudged you. I was sitting there with the Thanos voice and everything. I was like, I judged you too quickly. I'm so sorry. Actually, it wasn't too quickly. It was over 20 years worth. But still, just...
Actually, you have to send that to me later after this recording.
I do, yes, I will.
Mike, what did you think of the first 2 episodes and then this episode?
Yeah, I thought the first 2 were great. I was really sad to see Storm lose her powers, but as somebody in my comment section told me, it happens in the comics. So I was like, all right, relax. Like, we don't have to do... I know. I'm like, we don't have to do everything by the comics. Can't we just let Omega level threat Storm be? Like,
you just got her.
I know. She just came back. Like, yeah, exactly. I don't hate Scott and Jean as much as I did years ago. And I'm like, what's going? Like, is the magic? I think is working. Whatever they're cooking, I'm like, okay, the propaganda, the Cyclops propaganda. Yeah. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I love how adult it is. It feels like something I would have turned on. It reminded me a lot of the Spawn HBO animated series. Oh. Not like completely, but the idea of it, of like, this is adult. Like, the animation looks really great. I love the animation in this. It's really stellar. And I think the original always had great animation, but this is just so elevated and still just so tied to the old. I love it. I wrote a bunch of notes about just how much in this episode specifically, I was like, this animation sequence, and then it hits you with another one that I was just like, oh my God. Like, yeah,
I thought this episode really let the animation shine. And I just feel like the complaints of the animation sucks, oh, it looks worse, just like aren't valid anymore, right? Like,
no, they were complaining about like the compressed, leaked footage or something, and then being like, that's the final product. And it looks so smooth in the app, which is the way it's supposed to be enjoyed.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I like cannot field those anymore. Everyone being like, oh, the original is way better. Cause it is, I still enjoy that animation. It's
Sure.
very of the time. It worked as a kid. I was ecstatic that it looked like a comic book, right? But like, this just is better.
Yeah.
I don't know. Ashley, what did you think of this episode? Because I feel like you and I probably felt the same way.
I really loved it. I really thought about the fact that with Magneto now running essentially the X-Men, like what would their antagonists look like? Because usually they're so used to going head to head with X-Men, excuse me, with Magneto, in like the Brotherhood and things like that. And so now it's like seeing them, in a way, Magneto running the X-Men kind of gives them some freedom to stray away to like, and we know like with Madeline, it's a bit of a gray area because it's like, she is an antagonist, but at the same time, it's like she's under Mr. Sinister's control. But we get a little bit more of a look into what their adversities look like beyond just Magneto, which I think oftentimes X-Men media in general falls into that pattern of just we're up against Magneto, which like, don't get me wrong. Yeah, he's a big concern, but there's so many people in that world. So that was one of my big things, like you said earlier, in terms of the animation, especially when it came down to Madeline Pryor and the psychic fight basically between her and Jean Grey. Like the animation really shined. I can't even remember much of the dialogue there outside. Like, of course, we know the throwback moment of Jean Grey's childhood and things like that, but so much of that was built on that animation. Yeah, and then once again, here goes Wolverine to make sure Jean Grey knows I like you more than just a friend. And I did love after the first minute of being in his head, like, you really care about me, Scott. It's like, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, at what point do we get the message here, Logan? Like, please let it go.
Please move on.
He was like,
dude.
oh my God,
like a part of him definitely thought like, oh, she's been brainwashed. Maybe this is my chance. Maybe she'll, she doesn't really like Scott like that anymore. It's like, please let it the fuck go.
He was like, oh my God, her memory is gone. I will go literally hand her memories. Like, it's fine.
You and I are married, Jean Grey. I do appreciate his refusal to let it go, but also like, dude, like, yes, Cyclops can be kind of a tool, but like, that's who she picked. I don't know.
Yeah.
I would compare like how I feel about Wolverine to how I feel about Xander Harris on Buffy. Is like, when I was watching, I didn't have any of these like vibes originally, but now I'm an adult and I'm like, what's wrong with you? Oh my God. No is no, like, move on.
I said this to Mike, I think today on Twitter or yesterday. An X-Men episode with horror in it just felt like I was like, this feels special for me. Like, it's combining. I even sent it to my sometimes Slayerfest co-host and My Bloody Judy co-host, Zach, because I was like, we do a horror podcast together. And I was like, Zach, I know you're not into superheroes. I just need you to watch. I literally cut him the middle 3-minute clip of when like shit goes like sideways in the mansion and like the mom crawls out of the fucking TV. And like, I was like, I just need you to watch this because I know that you will at least appreciate it for like the horror. And even he can't stand superhero shit, but he was like, okay, yeah, that's really good. I really like the way you did that. And I was like, thank you. That makes me so happy to hear from like a non-superhero fan being like, oh yeah, this is good.
This is actually one of those things where it's like, especially because my friends know, like, oh my gosh, she's MCU everything. Especially when I told them like my dissertation would look at that, they was like, oh, we lost it forever. This is it. But this has been one of those things where if my friends are like, I don't have anything to watch, I can like confidently send them a link to this without like, when it's MCU stuff and it's like having to explain, the Birdman was the guy who used to be with Captain America, but then Captain America retired. So now the Birdman is Captain America. And the guy over there, he's not a serial killer anymore. Well, he kind of is, but just for the bad people now. So it's like, and then they look at me like I'm crazy and they're like, what if we did anything else besides this?
Yeah. Getting people to buy in is so rough. It used to be so easy. You show them Infinity War Endgame, they're like, I want to watch everything now. Perfect. Great. And then they're in. Now you're like, okay, so I liked a few of these projects here and there. But X-Men, everyone's into X-Men. And people who are not Disney Plus people are like, should I get it to Disney Plus? Yes, you should. Well,
Yeah.
or you can pirate.
Yeah, well, I subscribed again for X-Men exclusively because like we had gotten rid of it for a while, and yeah, I'm so happy we got it because I'm like, what would I have done if everybody was just talking about this online and I just wasn't part of the water cooler conversation? Yeah, it's great.
I don't know if any of you have had this. I've actually had a few friends, like you said, Gabby. I think it's wild to be like, oh, this like convoluted soap opera is easy to jump into, but it is, right?
It is.
Like, it's a credit to their storytelling, right? That it's like, there is so much history behind these stories, but they still like convey it to you where like you can just watch this story. And I've had a few people be like, well, I only know the movies. I don't like, can I watch a cartoon? I'm like, yes, you can. Like, it very much is easily digestible for someone who just like knows that like the X-Men are a team, right? Yeah. And a few of those friends have been like, oh yeah, fuck yeah, I love this. You know, my ex that texts me, he's really like not really that into superheroes, but like most of us liked the cartoon when he was a kid and saw the movies. And yeah, he literally just texts me as we're recording, say, because he watched this episode, the new X-Men 97 was great. They have to keep this going. I know there might have been a disaster behind the scenes, but there has to be a way to keep this going. I love it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the behind the scenes thing. I mean, we still haven't even received any information, right?
I that's what right, Ashley, we like touched upon it a little bit, but like as I say, like because there's no confirmation, I'm just like, we'll wait till we see. We like don't know exactly why, but Disney's so like, I could see like everyone having an NDA where they're not allowed to ever say anything, right?
Not. Yeah, for sure.
He had to delete his Instagram. That was very like Big Brother. I was like, what is that?
And I know we were just talking about like, I know it's gotta like, it's one thing to just be on a project and it's like you're not proud of it anymore. It's another thing for it basically to be the biggest thing to come out of that company in more recent. Now, when I say biggest, I'm like, yeah, sure. Other projects, of course, are going to make more money, but like in terms of critical acclaim,
yeah,
MCU needed a win, and they haven't had one like on this level in quite some time.
Yeah.
So it's like to have given them finally, I know that's gonna stink. I'd be calling like, bitch.
I would never get over this. I just wouldn't.
Their last Disney Plus was Secret Invasion. They had
exactly.
The next had to be something, or people were just canceling Disney Plus.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, like, put into perspective the fact that like Secret Invasion was one of the most expensive live actions of all time. Like, didn't they put the most money into it of any show that they made?
Insane.
Yeah.
And then they just ignored it.
Because they don't plan. I feel like, have they heard of Notion? Like, put it into a Notion board, something, plan it in advance.
I think when we did that like review wrap up, we had just decided that they must be using it to like funnel money because there's just no way. Like there has to be some bigger plot. Like there's like this is, but I say all of that to say that, you know, this, I'm not, of course, I'm sure this costs an arm and a leg too, but like this is a fraction of that, and it's like it's one of those things because like you were saying like at the beginning where we weren't sure like how long will we talk about this because it's only a half an hour. It's like slightly less than a half an hour, and I just love how even though it's less than 30 minutes. They're getting a lot in there. Like we're only episode 3 and we already are at, you know, Madeline Pryor, assuming the Madeline Pryor identity. We already got Goblin Queen. It's like, and it's not feeling too rushed at all, which is just showing the power of animation. So it's like, goddamn, and we still got more than half of the series to go. Like that.
I'm so glad you brought that up because that was before we like get into the episode. I was gonna ask because I've seen mostly praise for this episode, but like the few, I think IO9 or Gizmondo, one of those two sites, they gave it a bad review and they said that it was like way too rushed and that it felt rushed and like we didn't get to like sit in it. I guess from like a comic book perspective, you could be like, yeah, they mushed a lot, but I didn't feel rushed to me at all. And I was going to ask. Yeah.
No.
I think.
Something that I liked a lot was that the nightmare sequence rather, like allowed character like development to happen because it's pulling out fears. And I mean, it's such a commonly used storytelling trope, but it's so good. And it gave us that like sense of power for Madeline Pryor, but then it like showed us what Roberto is afraid of. It showed us like, I mean, what Gambit's afraid of, and maybe rightfully so. And so it kind of like kept that plot point active in my mind. I know they're gonna pick it up in another episode without any actual progression happening, and it was so good.
Yeah. To piggyback off of that, it reminded me of the Fear Itself Buffy episode, the Halloween
Mike,
episode.
I was like, Ian, don't say Buffy again, but
well,
yes.
I'm going to say Buffy a lot, because actually this episode reminded me so much of several different Buffy episodes that I was like, is my whole personality a lie? But yes, exactly. We got into Sunspot's backstory with his mother, which we would have had we had a little bit of an inkling of, right? To go to the feeling rush thing, absolutely not. Do you know how sick I've been of TV series just like slowly pacing out one story over 12 episodes? No, this was so refreshing. I was so ecstatic. And then, because I thought, like, okay, she's going to say she's the Goblin Queen, and that's going to be the end of the episode. But then it kept going, and I was like, oh, shit. Like, we are, like, yeah, I was so happy with this episode. Fuck whoever said that. At me. I'll come right back.
Say yes. I was only thing I was to say, I think, and not to do a call out of whoever wrote the article, but it's just like, I think for a while, some media publications were getting a lot of clicks from the media's finally dragging the MCU.
True.
And I think they were really harping on being able to jump on that bandwagon, and it's not hitting when it comes down to this show. So sorry, but you're going to have to wait for the next, I guess, live action to get those reactions. The next live action is Deadpool, and the audience you're trying to play, just, cater to, don't play about him. So best of luck.
Yeah, good luck.
And they got Hugh Jackman in there. They may not entertain you for that movie, but yeah, I think there was some media publications, because like, especially when the Marvels was,
he was just lying.
Yeah,
lying.
Lies.
Media.
I'm happy to say that I know the four of us are in agreement about the Marvels. So
exactly. For anyone who jumps in and is too lazy to go back to the podcast, it's not even that we think it's the best project. People just over fucking did it. Like, please be serious. Be serious. Even if, at best you could wait till it hit Disney Plus, but it was not on the level that, just to do a call out now, just is Variety especially was like posting the same article over and over again to get those clicks.
Times.
The rent was due. I'm like, they were trying to keep the lights on, clearly.
I mean, I'm biased. I know that because Captain Marvel was already like my favorite franchise within the franchise. And I knew I was going to love the Marvels because I love Miss Marvel. And it was so good. I had like the cam version after I saw the movie in theaters that I'm like rewatching. And then it drops on Disney Plus. And then now I switch. And like, I'm on a break now because that was a lot. But I loved it so much. So for all the hate that people were giving it, I was like, just wait till it drops. I'm watching this grainy potato footage and I know it's great.
I did that with Scream 6 and Barbie, where I was like, okay, I paid my money. I saw it in theaters, but now I like want to be able to watch it at home. So let me find this like shitty grainy cam version.
Well, as somebody who works in the industry, I didn't hear a single.
We paid for it first. We paid for it first.
And then again, later,
I get
when it came out.
Yeah. Hey, you're watching it on Disney Plus now, which is how people get residuals. So good job. All right.
But okay, so yes, Mike, I love that you brought up Fear Itself, because I kept thinking that in the like, it's like there were so many horror references in this, so many references in general, that I don't know if you all feel this way. Sometimes the references in certain things, of course now I can't think of one. Sometimes it's a lot, right? Sometimes it's like you get bogged down and it's like, we don't need all these references, or they're too like ham-fisted, too like stupid. There wasn't one that didn't work for me in this, because I didn't think anything was like, it wasn't like a carbon copy to be like, oh, look, you remember this. It was just like, and even like her transformation being so much like Sailor Moon,
Loved it.
That was fucking cool.
It looks so good, and it's purple and green, and she's a villain, and we don't get this stuff anymore. Like, I think, like, Ian, when we did Madam Web together, like Madam Web is bad. Yes, I know. But like the little 5-minute part where the three young women have superpowers is all I wanted. And I'm like, I'm going to protect this. It's fine. You don't understand it. This Goblin Queen transformation sequence, I don't give a fuck about Madam Web anymore. All I want to watch for the rest of my life is that sequence. It's gorgeous. Sorry. Okay. Sorry. I got it.
No, but I agree with you. Yeah.
Oh my God. I just got an idea to put that to a Beyonce song. At this point now, it might just have to, like now I feel like I keep getting an idea to put it to Beyonce. I might have to this may just be my thing every week. Last week was Storm and now it's going to be Madeline.
Listen,
thank you.
Work.
I think that's a great thing.
I love it.
Gabby, what were you going to say? Sorry.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? So I really love, when I was younger and I was watching these like cartoons have these little like sexy slutty moments and it was making me get all hot and uncomfortable. I had no idea what was going on. But now I'm an adult and I can see with my own eyeballs, Madeline Pryor is hot. What's going on? Like she had a full coochie shot.
She did. Oh my God. Yes.
They are trying to fuck up the kids, the youth. I'm okay with it. I'm just saying, like, be honest.
It was fine. Yeah.
Gabby, I like that you're like, no, they're doing it, but I like it. I mean, I was surprised that like, so even, I meant to bring it in my room. Is it in here? No, it's in the other room. I have like the Madeline Pryor figure because after the first, I was like, okay, Ian, you have so many fucking action figures. You don't need to buy all the X-Men ones. But then I saw the first 2 episodes. I was like, all right, I need Jean, I need Madeline, I need Magneto, I need Gambit and Bishop. So I bought all of them. The Madeline figure, I know, like, just a few. The Madeline figure is like, she has black leather pants on. So I was surprised in the cartoon that she does have the like bikini cut bottom.
Oh, she's sluttier in the comics.
Oh yeah.
So
she got the
they just covered her up. I'll give it to them. But she's coochie shot.
Yeah.
I love that they actually was able to keep her, and I say this in the most feminist way possible, her thoughtiness without, completely, without Disney being like, you're gonna make us give us a new rating. Like we're gonna end up I love that they were able to keep that in effect so it honestly makes me very curious for how if they do Emma Frost, what that's going to look like. Because I feel like that's literally the only one, maybe over Madeline, who was like, oh, you're barely wearing clothes? Fine, I'll go outside naked. So, it's like, just can't wait to see what they do there. But I think they did a great job of like, not completely, we have to PG-13 this down, but not. And I mean, the coochie shot especially was like, okay, I think we said this last week, like they know that the real audience here it's the people who used to jump up on Saturday morning. We just not jumping up as fast anymore. Like they know.
The girls, gays, and theys, right?
And I feel like the other thing that they did with her was like, I don't know if this makes sense. And like, I'm a cis dude, so maybe not, but like, she, like you said, it was like, she was still a thought, but it didn't feel like exploitive. Like sometimes when like, it's a man, like when you can tell it's a straight dude doing it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Did that make sense? Like, I didn't feel like she felt like too booby or too whatever. It was like, no, this feels like the right kind of, I don't know. Right. I don't know.
Yeah, no, she owned it. She owned the
same. Yeah. What I will say is I am, around the kink and polyamorous scene now, and I know what domination looks like. He like shot a concussive force blast at her, and she wiped her blood and was like, "Oh!" And then he like trembled a little bit, and then she embraced him. What's going on? What's the kink dynamic there?
I feel like I always say Cyclops is the bottom in all these relationships, and I feel like
and it was proven.
Okay, so I guess I'm gonna try to break this up into acts. So we'll talk about Act 1. We get the Jean Grey of it all, right? And again, they move fast with it, but I don't think it felt rushed. It felt like, okay, cool, sure, we figured out that Jean Grey is real. Beast knows. He said it's made the cue like, you're someone sinister. And I was like, fucking, yeah, I love this. I love it. And it works for a comic book. It works for a superhero story, right? Like, I get people who are like, well, I would have liked them, but I didn't need them to sit on that, right? Because we kind of knew. Ashley, right? Like, we all were like, she fainted. That's got to be the real Jean Grey. Clearly.
I'm very proud of her for fainting a second time in the show, just to, really get it in there. Like, yeah, I'm here. I'm here now.
I I was like, no, I think they're trying to like pivot us, and like it'll be that's Madeline Pryor, but pretending. And I tweeted about it. I was adamant. I still have hope. Like maybe in the future they'll be like the machine was wrong, but I thought they were gonna like really switch one up. But then when I saw how the story played out, I was like, oh, I see where they went. Way better. I get it.
Yeah, I felt like they did a lot of good exposition quickly, right?
Yes.
I don't need, that's a thing that I like will always give kudos to any sci-fi fantasy shit when they don't over explain it. Cause I know it's sci-fi fantasy. It's not real. So like, let's breeze by the explanation because I don't fucking need it. The example I always give is like, as a kid, I'd watch Star Trek and they'd be like, the dilithium crystals are depowered. I don't know what the fuck that means, but I don't need to know. That's the problem. Sure, keep moving. So I like that I was excited because I said this in my reaction video. There's like, I made a custom figure of Bishop's sister because she was one of my favorites from the original cartoon. And they only released certain ladies in those like old toys when we were kids. And she was one of them. And I loved that figure. Like, I thought she was cool. She had her, the long blonde braid and it was like real hair. It was like the doll hair. And so I fucking loved it. It was like a doll. So I have a shard figure that I made and so I'm always like wanting to see her. Cause like for a while she was on X Factor, right? But she was like a hologram that could fight, but was a hologram because sure, comic books. So like when Beast mentioned he was working on Bishop's, what do they even call it? I don't know.
His
device.
wristband?
Oh, the device to travel. The time travel device. That's what it does.
They don't even have a name yet.
Gabby, you're right. Again, back to my point of doesn't fucking matter. That makes him time travel. Sure. I was like, oh, cool. Maybe we'll see him go to his like future and we'll see Shard and we'll see Forge, not thinking how they're setting this up for the end of this fucking episode. And once we got there, it was like, oh, fucking duh. But I didn't think that at the time. I was just like, oh, maybe that's for like a different plot later. Right. I mean, we touch upon it in the middle of the episode. We don't really know. Because in the old cartoon, Bishop wasn't always with them. He was just like popping in time to time traveling. So I'm like, I am curious if we'll like find out how he got like stuck, right? Because like, of course he would miss his sister. So that's like understandable as a fear. I like how they do little things like that where it's like, this is fine. We keep moving, but like it does come back. I don't know. I think that's clearly that's like how writing a TV show should be, but like it just feels so nice to get it in this. I don't know. Like I feel like I sound stupid, but yeah, go ahead.
Because they were acting like it was difficult. Like there was no sense of tension in Secret Invasion whatsoever. And they were like, what are you talking about? It's not a thriller. So it's nice to like, there's like more tension in the animated show right now. And it's so refreshing to get it. Oh, and they surprise me. Like, even when I'm like, oh, they're setting up that like comic thing, they're doing it different. Yeah.
Yes. And I think that is the best thing that they're doing is like, they're giving us the comic storylines, but like tweaking them for this X-Men world. Yeah. And like, I don't know, there's those nerds that get mad when it's not 1-for-1, but I don't need it to be 1-for-1, right? Like,
then it wouldn't be fun reading all the comics right now.
Yeah.
That's one. And then two, not everything from the comics translates well, even in an animated. Yeah. It just doesn't. So I mean, keeping the essence and the soul of the story, like people who are familiar with Storm's story, like we clearly know like where this is leading to. But as we discussed last week, especially Brett pointed out some of the changes that they already made, especially with like Forge's involvement with the device that takes Ororo's powers in the first place and things like that. So it's like we see these little changes that in terms of the comic story would completely change things, but like they're working really well within this world. And if you've read the comics, you can see where this is going. So I'm like, and I would hate if they just took the comics and made it like that would be very lazy. I'll never get around to watching this because I already know what happens.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's not creatively fulfilling either for any of the creatives involved. It's like who are obvious fans of the X-Men, and it's like, yes, we want to tell stories with these characters we love, but we don't want, like, why do an exact replica? It's so boring. It's so unmotivated. I totally agree. I think it's great.
And so I also did feel bad for Madeline, right? Like I was like, I do like when she's like freaking out, it's like, I felt bad for her because at this point, especially like at the start, she's not bad, right? She's just like, no, I am the real Jean. And like, you know, that would fuck you up to be like, oh, I'm a clone. Like, I just had a kid with this guy and now his like real wife is here and like, fuck me. Like, and
I want to state first and foremost, excellent case for polyamory. Excellent case.
I knew what you were going to say before you said it. And yes, you are correct.
I mean, this episode as a whole is a great case for polyamory because you've also got Magneto and Gambit and Rogue and maybe Logan and Morph. Like everybody, you know, the X-Men are...
I don't think anyone else would be good at it. I think Cyclops is like, I don't know, he's like dweeby and he just like really likes Jean Grey. Now there's 2 Jean Greys. Okay. I think he can handle it.
Can we be rewarding Cyclops with 2 Jean Greys? Like, you know, it's been 20 years.
Madeline. She's alone. She just years. She's like,
I'm trying to figure out how he got the first one, and then we go on and we give him a second one, but in bad bitch version. That's just like no. That's just no.
It's for Madeline because then it's so bizarre that she's just like, oh, the baby's gone. Anyway, bye. Like,
yeah.
I didn't really get that one. I'm willing to go along with it, but. Huh?
I fucking cried at that end. Like I was like, oh man, like I genuinely felt bad for her. And I don't know, like I like that we know who this baby becomes. Yes. I don't know. I thought they did a really good job with that. And in my brain, I kept thinking, oh, are they going to bring in, the woman named Ascani, who's the one that actually takes him. And I was like, how are they going to bring her in? And then when they did with Bishop, I was like, oh, this fucking makes sense. Like, for this world, yes, have Bishop be the one that takes the baby back because sure, like he is the resident time travel. We don't need to add a different character we haven't seen before to do it. We have the time traveler right here.
He only had enough juice for like himself and a baby though. Like that was a little on the nose.
Well, also, so I totally agree, Ian, but I was also like, wow, they're taking a huge leap. Like, well, maybe there's a cure in the future. Bishop, will you take the kid? And he's like, sure, but it's only me and him. And I was like, this is a great way to get this baby out of this animated series. Thank you so much. Like, it was.
That's really it. It was. They were just like, all right.
It was like, well, okay. Also, nobody saw that kid off. Nobody saw that kid off except for Madeline. They didn't even say bye to Bishop. They were like, she's hanging out.
Left his baby. He was like, I can't abandon my baby. And then leaves.
Yes.
Like, that's what you did, though. That's what you did.
But he's not going to be like his father. Yeah.
Humans are like, if I don't look, it's not happening. And so it did feel, and for his character, that's appropriate.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It is. I'm curious. I don't know that. I actually don't know this storyline that, like, I know the storyline, but I don't know it that well. Is there like, do any of you know, is there a reason she becomes Goblin Queen, or is it kind of like this, where it's just like she spirals and she like gets like hot and evil and demony? Because I that's the only thing I was wondering. I was like, but I wonder why she's picking like Goblin Queen or Madeline Pryor. Like, what do those names mean to her that she's like pulling them out to be like, yes, this is what I am now, right?
I will go on the record as saying I did not know Madeline Pryor was a Jean Grey clone. So I knew who Madeline Pryor was, but I knew of her because I have this this deck building card game with all the Marvel characters, and she's one of the villains, and I always pick her because I'm like, oh, she looks fierce. Oh, she's called the Goblin Queen. Okay, work. That's where the knowledge ends over here. I don't know.
Yeah, I just found this out like this week when people started being like, Madeline Pryor is coming and she's a Jean Grey clone. I was like, that sounds like fucking fan fiction, honestly. And they were like, no, that's what happened. Oh my god.
I had a friend, my friend Ruben, text me to be like, he didn't know, I forget what it was. It was like, he was asking me about Madeline Pryor, and then he was also like, did Magneto and Rogue, were they ever, is that in the, I was like, yeah, it's in the comics, like briefly, and it's in like the alternate timeline, blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, but also Magneto had a clone for a minute, and Rogue also hooked up with Magneto's clone because these comics are a telenovela. And he was like, that really sounds ridiculous, but I love it.
Yeah, no, that's literally what telenovela is. Just random character comes in and ruins everything. I don't know what the actual like source of her name was. I know she used to use her powers to literally kind of bring in like an underworld with goblins and stuff like that. It was supposed to be attached to her psychic powers, if I'm not mistaken, and what she was using them for. And then she has something with because this is really revealing the fact that I didn't care for her outside of Nathan. I didn't, but the only reason why I knew she was the wrong one is because when they told us that it was Nathan Summers in the last episode, Nathan's mom is Madeline. So like that's when I was like, okay, that's why I knew like who was who, only because I'm like, we know she's the one who gives birth to Cable. So that's the only reason why. And I'm pretty sure it's really supposed to be related to, although I will say, if you wanted to critique it a little bit, like I don't think they really leaned into that explanation in terms of Goblin Queen for the show. So I can understand why someone might be like, oh, she just decided to go with that name because it sounds nefarious and scary, which also works. Why not? But yeah, so that's from what I can pick up or remember, which could be a blur. So if I'm wrong, that's fine. I was inventing a new comic, but I'm pretty sure
I can hear the internet pitchforks already coming.
Right, like sorry, Brett's not here.
Sorry, everyone.
The posters that we got, and so it was an old issue that they canceled. It was the only one who
cares? Google it. Who cares?
But yeah, but I even going back to like the fight of, I liked how they were able to play on everyone's, because they're not supposed to be a match for Madeline, because I knew like the only person who can take her down is going to be Jean Grey. But I like that, like, even as like she's easily combating everyone else, you know, like for example, Morph, at least when it came down to Magneto, even though we know he's going to lose, he's never supposed to lose a fight easily. So at least it was like, all right, you got some hits in, like, don't play with him, you know? It's just like, and then, and yeah, that psychic throwdown, that's why I was saying, I'm really liking the changes that they're making, because the psychic throwdown between Jean and Madeline really is supposed to end in her, like, you know, it's not even supposed to, but like them having that, playing with that, making it very clear who the superior telepath is, and also going back to what you were saying in terms of how they're treating her, because like, yeah, she's the antagonist here, but also she's a victim as well, because it's not like she was part of Mr. Sinister's plan. And I love that Morph says that at the beginning, like when we see her, like, don't forget, like, she's a victim in all of this too, before you go a guns a-blazing. And like, I love that idea, because I'm like, you know, MCU has been playing with that sort of idea a lot. You know,
I'm looking at Wanda right behind you and getting mad at you.
I didn't want to say it, but there she is. So what can you do? It's a perfect example. I know they keep playing with this, but they have not done it very well. Like even with WandaVision, as much as I enjoyed it, really just for the nostalgia and the time period that it came out. Like when we look back on it, and it's like the entire storyline was this idea of to get you to sympathize for Wanda, but in the end, it was like, bitch, you had them people locked up. You need to answer for things, like you are not innocent here. And so it's like, you know, at least with this one, it's a very clear, like, she beating y'all ass, but also like yesterday she thought she was Jean Grey, so it's like, you know, she also needs a hug. Yeah,
like yesterday she thought she was Jean Grey and gave birth to her child.
And she's battling postpartum. Oh no, we need to all be grateful that she did.
So I want to move us on to Act 2, because I fucking loved Act 2, where it became Buffy's Fear itself. There were so many, like, I was wondering who was a huge horror fan, or if everyone in that writer's room was, because Mike, I know you and I are both giant horror nerds. Didn't it feel like there were so many influences, but there wasn't like a specific thing one thing they were just going for? It felt like they were kind of going for a lot, right?
It felt like they were going for a lot. I mean, there's the obvious Nightmare on Elm Street 2, a lot of Nightmare on Elm Street kind of across the board, even with like the TV set, reminded me of Dream Warriors. The mom crawling out of the set also felt like Perfect Blue to me, which is a Japanese anime horror movie, which kind of Black Swan ripped off completely. It's got kind of this like, just the character design of that also didn't, it felt very anime this episode as well. Even just the art style and just how kind of gross all those characters looked, which I found very like, I think that's kind of what initially reminded me of the HBO Spawn series. I was like, oh, like this is very dark for Disney Plus. I love it. Give me more. So yeah, there's those elements going on. There's a lot of Buffy in it. What else? There's I just lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. Go.
I think you were the one who said it looked a bit like Sailor Moon, but like.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, the Sailor Moon transformation sequence of Madeline turning into the Goblin Queen, like that whole sequence is just.
And even to start the spooky shit, when Sinister's talking to her through the fucking baby monitor, I loved that because that's like creepy, right? It's like, oh, this is a thing for her like kid, and he's like using it to like kind of like fuck up her mind. I like that.
Oh, when he's like. Answers. That was a great line. That was just great. That was fun. I loved it.
Yeah.
I have the note just like answers. That's it.
Ashley, what did you think of like all the like horror shit?
I absolutely loved how they leaned into it. I don't want to compare it to Castlevania, but also know that I'm currently watching Castlevania, so everything reminds me of Castlevania. But just in how, you know, I'm loving like I'm just seeing the way that Castlevania used animation to bring these mature themes to life, and then that like this, because there were so many ways to just make it very clear. Oh, she's the antagonist now, and the fact that they went with the instead of some big announce myself moment of taking things over, you know, she targeted each member. You know, you got Morph with Wolverine, which we're gonna have to get into that in a second because what and then we had we had Jubilee and Sunspot watching TV and then targeting them using the movie, and then even the elevator, like literally the way in which she both was using psychic powers and tapping into each person's fear and then also bringing things to life was, as you were saying, very very anime. And then very much taking from like sort of the idea, not the actual graphics, but like the idea of Freddy Krueger. Sorry to say, like my knowledge of horror is very 80s, 90s. I know I got the experts on here, but like it does remind me of like when you think everything is fine, and then next thing you know, random shit starts happening, and someone realizes that they must be asleep. And so it was sort of that effect as well. And I loved how they leaned into those themes with animation ideas that clearly come, stem away from like the traditional animation of the original show. Because I don't think the original show had some scary things in terms of like, let's drive up the fact that, the stakes are higher, but they never were as dark. I think it still was like that cartoon villain Saturday morning thing. And this felt very much like I stumbled onto Netflix while I was in bed and I got all the lights off and random shit is popping up. I'm like, oh, wait, I gotta wait till I wake up tomorrow. I gotta watch this at 10 a.m. I need the sun up. I can't do it.
Yeah. Which is, I think that's what's really exciting too, is like, that's gonna awaken some little kid's like horror brain and be like, whoa, what, this is scary, but I'm really into this. Like what? And it's like those little things that, I think are so cool about this show. Also like the thing I meant to say earlier was the bat sort of transition. Like they had bats.
There's a world in which that's fucking stupid, but it worked for me.
It worked. No, it worked. But I was like, this is, you wouldn't get this on a regular X-Men episode. So like, I'm really glad they leaned into it. They're like, because somebody pitched it like, maybe this is a dumb idea, and they're like, no, she's the fucking Goblin Queen. Like, let's go. Like,
let's do a Halloween horror episode.
Yeah, it was great.
I know. Just remember that the thing crawling out of the TV reminded me of The Ring as well. So there we go.
I also feel like the way the like grossness was very Cronenberg, right? Where it's like
body horror.
The Magneto and Road, like Gambit's fear could have just been seeing them together, right?
Yeah.
But instead of it just being that, it's like they're also gross and melting into each other.
Yes. Yeah.
We didn't need that extra, but we did.
Yeah.
I think it was like to as a metaphor almost for like sex, right? They're like, oh, they're having plant sex.
Yeah. That reminded me of that Buffy and Riley won't stop screwing episode, Ian.
Yep. Ashley, I'm so sorry. You always have to hear a zillion fucking Buffy references, and you
and I just sit there smiling like
I'm rewatching
really
it right
you're
now.
Michelle Gellar. Yeah.
Oh wait, Gabby, where are you in your rewatch?
It's just that we got to like Faith has started to spiral, and my girlfriend's like, what? She has no idea what is happening, and I guess I've like built Faith up to this point that she's like, I didn't know it was gonna be like this. I thought you just said they were a little gay.
Good, but also there's murder. Also, like,
there's a lot of fighting.
Right. I never said there wasn't murder. Anyway, and that fish episode like scarred me. Where we just passed that, and who wrote that?
Yeah, and I guess even like with Beast, that was like a little bit Shining, right? And you know what it reminded me of? This is like very, I don't know if this is going to be, maybe it's not niche. The Simpsons Halloween horror when they're like, oh, the blood usually gets off on the 4th floor. Yeah. And it's like on the wrong floor. And Beast is like, oh, one of us is on the wrong floor. And he's like cracking a joke at this weird big face monster.
That got such a big laugh from me. And because it was like, and that's also what's really fun about horror and when it injects comedy, because it's a moment of levity that like, because we're not used to seeing this in an X-Men cartoon. They're not used to seeing it as characters that then like, we're like, what the fuck's going on? And then Beast is just like one-liner. And I was like, Beast, you nailed it. Yeah. You nailed it, buddy.
That's also how I would react. Yeah. I'm in the wrong place. My bad.
You're good. The elevator's full. I'll get the next one. Like,
it just felt real.
Oh, go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
When Jubilee said that we're like in a bad horror movie, I was like, no, you're in a really good horror movie.
Let's talk about Morph. Because while I was watching this, I was like, wait, what the fuck's going on? Am I reading too much into this? No, I'm definitely not reading too much into this. Right?
Even more so knowing that was... See, it's not just that it happened. It's more so finding out that wasn't really Logan. That was Jean Grey creating a situation for Morph to end up terrified in. So that means she had to have read their mind and realize that they would even want to be in that type of a situation with Logan in the first place. So that's what I like, because when I first, I only watched it until I've been saving it for Thursday so that my feelings on it are fresh right before we get on. And of course, the clips, because everybody I follow is a Marvel fan, basically. So, like, I saw some clips. So I went in knowing something happens with Morph and Logan, but I assumed it was the real Logan. Finding out that was Jean Grey reading Morph's mind was like, so Miss Madeline, you want to spill the tea? What else what is he thinking about? Like, they built it up like, Morph would want a threesome, foursome, or whatever. But I'm like,
she called him a capital F word. I even love that we like got a hint of a setup for that right at first, because it's like Morph, Gambit, and Wolverine. Also, it was bananas that Wolverine's like, oh, you put his hush puppies up in his belly. And I was like, are we talking about Gambit's balls? We are talking about Gambit's balls.
Yes, we are, yeah.
Like, and then when Wolverine's like, I'm going to go find a redhead or one of them. And Morph's like, and there's just me. That I feel like that is the queer experience, especially when you're younger and you're like friends with a bunch of straight people. And it's like, all right, I guess they're all gonna like have crushes and I'm cool. I'll get a root beer. Right? Like, so even that felt like, oh, I get what they're doing here. And then they were like, okay, but also we're going to use this in like 2 minutes. And even Sinister is like, I know what you are. And it's like,
yeah. Somebody needs to make that dog meme, but with Sinister. Like, I know what you are, Morph.
And I couldn't believe we didn't like see anything, but we saw like we got that Wolverine was naked and saw like the ass in the shadows. I was very surprised.
Wow, did you like pause and rewind a few times, Ian?
Maybe.
If it had been Gambit, I'll tell you what, I would have taken screenshots. Just
yeah.
But yeah, Mike, I do think it was a little bit Freddy's Revenge.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of horror, right? Because I went to screen cap that scene from Freddy's Revenge and I was like, oh, it's not really that scene, but we're doing what that scene was doing.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and it's a little gay, right? And that's what Nightmare 2 is. It's a little gay, a little bit. But yeah, it's I really just I can't really say more other than I fucking loved everything going on in this episode, and the fact that we got Logan in the shower, and it maybe unlocked a gay fantasy in Morph, which may actually be true. It's like Willow meeting her doppelganger and finding out she's gay, and like there's like plants and payoffs. Just like we are on a ride of storytelling. It's so much fun. I'm just so happy.
And it would be so easy to get lost for some of these characters to get lost in the story. It would be so easy because there are a lot, right? We've taken the exact same roster we had and added more. That is a lot of characters, but they're doing a fucking great job, I think. Like, I don't feel like Jubilee and Sunspot, they're not getting the, like, Sunspot was at, like, the front, like, the first time, but, like, I think that's okay. They're like, the kids more, and like we're focusing on the adults, but like Jubilee and Sunspot are still there. We still have like, maybe there's a romance, maybe there's not. I love it. I also love that when they like the floor fucking like falls down and Beast is like, what does he say? Like, I appreciate Sinister's or Madeline's Jean's like reverence for Dante's Inferno, but how is she doing this? And I like that then he like references Lewis Carroll and like, that's very Beast, right? Making all these like annoying literary references. It's like, all right, dude, like there are monsters. Let's concentrate on that.
Yeah. And then Wolverine's like, you smell like burnt hair. Like, I also, one of the other things I really like about this series that is the combos they seem to be doing. Like, and if you've played the X-Men games, like, it's so much fun seeing it. Like Gambit and Wolverine do it in the second episode, right? With the he makes the claws magnetic or gives them energy. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm a little tongue-tied. And then with Bishop and Cyclops, he's like, power me up, Cyclops. I was like, fucking do it. And then he's just like, and then like we go wide and we see those beams. I was like, yes.
And like that, I feel like that's what's so good about this is they also give us cool action, right? Like they do a good job with the drama. They also do a good job with the fucking like powers and action scenes. And like, I feel like they didn't quite use Bishop. I don't know why I keep mixing the two up. Probably because they're the two I want to have sex with the most. But I feel like they didn't use Bishop as to like his potential in the original anime series, but also he was only a side character. I feel like this is shit where I'm like, oh yeah, like give Bishop his like flowers. Like he's pretty fucking powerful. And I just love, I like, Ashley, I think you referenced this in our first recording that it like, once we got that in the like first Avengers, right? With like bouncing off the Iron Man's blast.
Yeah.
We're doing that a lot in this, and that is fucking cool. Like that's where like 10-year-old me is like, I would play this with my toys. I would play this action scene. But yeah, so Magneto and Rogue. I do have a question for the class. Magneto and Rogue, when they come back, were they locked in the danger room or were they not at the mansion?
No, I can't remember. So Morph apparently
looks at the schedule.
But I think he did something, I think they did something to it because I remember Gambit responding like, that's a lie. They're off.
Oh, okay.
So Gambit knew it was a lie, but because of his insecurity, that's when Gambit was like, you know what, let me go check in and see. So I can't remember where it is that they went off to. But I remember it was supposed to be that Morph was playing him.
Okay.
That's why Logan Laugh was like, you're gonna make his whatever go up or whatever. But like I remember Gambit calling out and saying, no, you're lying because they're supposed to be gone.
Okay.
So
I thought that was
back. She was like,
but they were together.
That's
so
true.
I just can't remember where they went off to, but they did go together, but they weren't in the danger room.
I read it the opposite way, but your way makes more sense. I read it as like Gambit just said that to like cover his own like pride and ego to be like, no, they're here. But like they were in there, but that makes more sense because it was like every single block was blocked up when Morph was like looking at the.
I was like, I mean, if they were going to make it that obvious, like, goddamn, you might as well just let Gambit know, bitch, we are.
Yeah.
Right? It just seems so suspicious because why would they put it on the schedule? That doesn't
Right, yeah.
seem...
Magneto and Rogue fucking during this block. Like,
it's like, we will be in. It's like, and also, why would Magneto be scared to even say? Like at that point, it's like he would just let him know, like I'm fucking your woman from Thursday to Saturday, and I'll give her back on Sunday.
So,
I think that's how.
I would love Magneto to say that about me.
like, oh yeah, can we talk about when after he lost the fight against Madeline, and then his clothes are ripped off, basically.
Oh yes, there's a blink and you miss it. You're absolutely right. Yes, I was like, why is he naked? What happened to his outfit?
What it reminded me of is a lot of times in the comics, right? The women will like have a battle and then it's like almost their whole boob is out, but it's like a little bit covering the nipple and like, or like half their butt is exposed. I was like, yes, flip this and make it the man that has the ripped up costume and looks all like hot and slutty laying there like, oh, I'm unconscious. Look how hot I am.
his new outfit is gay, right?
Yes.
Like it is like it kind of looks like Wanda's outfit. The gloves and everything. Like it's
ridiculous and I love it.
So on that note though, you called Cyclops a bottom earlier. Do you think Magneto's the top with Rogue? Because I don't think so.
I think Magneto is. I do not think Gambit is.
Okay.
Gambit again. Sorry, Ashley, but Gabby and Mike, you.
Well, please also weigh in.
Well, no, I'm going to make another Buffy reference. Gambit reminds me of Spike, where like Spike does. If it was Buffy Angel Spike would be the like verse bottom, and I feel like that's what I would read for Gambit. That he would be fine being like, all right, I'll be in the middle. Like,
yeah. Okay, sure, yeah. But okay, all right, yeah.
Welcome to Slayerfest, everyone. We have a real conversation.
Hard-hitting X-Men talks. Gabby, I want to know your opinion.
Is Magneto a bottom?
I mean, there are so many storylines happening concurrently and I'm a little bit like, which way can we go, right? Because first it's like, all right, Magneto is taking over the team. All right, that was an adjustment. Then it's like, oh, is he fucking Rogue or are they just hanging out? Are they just like stroking hands for a few hours? Like, I don't even know what's going on there. And it does seem like they're being a little too obvious for them to be cheating. So so the only thing that makes sense is him being a bottom, but then what's going on with him and Rogue?
Right? Because I feel like, I don't know, Rogue I feel like would be kind of like Buffy in bed where she's like, she knows she's the strong one there and like, is like, yes, we're gonna fuck this house down. Like, let's do it. Like, I feel like Rogue would like, I don't know. But also like Magneto and Xavier, I feel like Xavier is a total bottom. Give me a break.
Well, but that's why I'm so like, I can't picture it because I'm like, no, he fucks Charles. I don't know. Whatever. Maybe they're both sides.
Maybe they're both switches, right? Like it's giving that and like the depth, I think, of their connection. Like maybe when they met, they were like, "No, I'm strictly this side," right?
Yes.
Yes.
See, Gabby, that's why you're the one that writes about this shit because you have the good insight. Because I'm like, yeah, that's true. That tracks. But yes. So we are on to Act 3.
Oh, right, that's where we are.
Morph knows where Sinister is. I love that it's like a Scooby-Doo mansion. Like, that sounds stupid, but I genuinely loved it. Like, her on her throne at the top of those stairs, like we said, her crotch right in the fucking camera with her legs. And I love that she uncrosses her legs. It like reminded me of Basic Instinct. And I was like, all right, girl. Like, you look good. Nothing wrong with it. And she's just like so shitty and is like, I know I'm more powerful than everyone who walked in this room.
Yeah.
Whatever.
You referenced it earlier when Morph is like, be careful, she's a victim. And she's like, better listen, I know not what I do. I was like, you better work, you bitch. Like, she's so fierce. I want more.
This also has to be so
more.
fun for the voice actor.
Yes.
Like, just like, even just like focusing on Madeline to like when she's first coming to terms with it, like she's just heard the fact that like she's a clone and is still even being able to wrap her mind around it, and then the shift into Sinister taking over the baby monitor, and then we see that transition and then the immediate like voice change, but there isn't a change, but it's like the attitude behind it, because she doesn't have to, it's like that just shows how fucking talented you have to be as a voice actor to be able to still deliver like that same. And yet we still get something so vastly different from it. Because it's like the person sitting there like, I know not what I do. And it's like you immediately get this sense of, she's about to kill all of you. I don't know where the nearest exits. You need to cover. And it's just like, wow, like that's, like I was just thinking about how much fun that must be for the voice actor. You're basically playing like a different character every 30 seconds. Like that's gotta be.
And Mike, I know we talked about this with Madam Web, but I felt like a bajillion fold 10-year-old closeted gay boy everywhere would have loved Madeline Pryor. You and I like obsessed, right?
I saw that she has an action figure, and then you talked about it, and I was like, I want to go buy that action figure. And my husband was like, no, you have enough. And I said, fine. Anyway,
rude.
It's not about me and what I'm allowed to spend money on. This is about the X-Men.
You remind him for better or worse, and maybe this is just your worst, No,
that's true. Yeah. And then that gorgeous fight between Magneto and her with the stained glass, like
that looked so fucking cool. And Ashley, I love that it was like what you said. It's like we're still like letting Magneto get in some hits because we don't want it to be like, because he should, right? Like if Storm were there, it would have to be the same way. She can't just like flatten them immediately. Everyone else, yeah, she kind of can, but like we needed him to put up more of a fight, and he did, and I really liked it. It looked fucking cool.
Yeah.
And I like when the glass like slashed his arm, and like, I don't know, I was like really into it.
Yeah.
I have another question. Ashley, I don't know if we talked about this. Is Morph more like, because Mystique just like shapeshifts, right?
Yeah.
Is it Morph like takes on their powers when he shapeshifts?
Well, they made some changes for the show, so I can't even speak confidently from anything because they weren't doing all of this in the first thing. Okay. They were not at all. I don't know if you guys remember the very glip when they realized that it's Mr. Sinister that has done all of this, and we know that Morph has a very dark past with Mr. Sinister from the first show, and they actually had Morph bring back their face from the first edition of the show. So like I love that because I remember when the new series first started and I was like, oh, they gave Morph a new face, and now it's like, oh, okay, it could also just be a matter of like things are different now and they can take on their actual but yeah, so I can't speak confidently in terms of like whether it's always been this way or if it's just like they never really leaned into it. It does seem that they took some creative freedom with them for the sake of like, okay, we can't just have you putting on a different X-Men's face, every 2 seconds. Like, let's show you with some sort of ability. And it does look a little bit more than what Mystique can do. Obviously, we know Mystique is more of a fighter without having to even, swish into anything. But it looks like Morph, maybe even if only for say a certain amount of time, can carry some bit of the abilities of the person that they're copying, which is definitely differentiating them from Mystique. Because I remember for a long time it was just like, oh, they just needed a chameleon basically. Right. So I like what they're doing with them.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me. I just was like, I couldn't remember if like I just forgot that was in the original or not.
No, they did not. They did not. Literally, to be real with you, Morph was just like a plot device because they were gone for multiple episodes and then came back to be an antagonist because of Mr. Sinister. So like they barely used Morph at all, and now they completely changed things, which I'm really liking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was confused when he turned into magic and he had her sword, right?
Yeah.
And was able to use it, because then my brain goes to the first X-Men movie when Mystique is Wolverine and he cuts her claws, you know? Yeah, and so
like, that's not adamantium, bitch. That's
right. I do like the creative liberty they're taking, because I admittedly, when the show was announced, I was like, Morph is a main character. I was a little like, I don't love him, but I am growing to, because of what they're doing. So by the end of this episode, I was like more on the Morph train than I was at the beginning. So
yeah.
So I just wanted to clarify, the reason I still say he for Morph, because the voice actor said Morph is non-binary, but uses he, they. So
don't come for me online.
But also, I know when I'd rather, it's like, it takes practice. So it's like, I want to just get to it so that it happens. Right?
Yeah.
No, I just wanted to let everyone know. Like,
I know, but it's like, I also want to, because I want to make it, I think people will make more of a conscious effort to remember that they're non-binary if we do that. So even though I know it's still okay to, and it's applicable, yes, I force myself to. But I also think it also applies because in the first series,
right,
that was their, they only went through by by he, him.
They didn't have pronouns back
technically, they've always been there. But
I know.
Sure, pronouns came out within, we just started using pronouns 3 years ago. I've never referred to myself ever. I always just said Ashley is very happy right now. That's how I used to talk. But now with the pronoun business, they want me to say I.
So rude. Let's talk about the psychic battle, because it was fucking cool.
It really was.
God,
I loved it. I love when they were like, "Oh, the body, like you're weak," and she's like, "I'm not talking about my body."
And she she puts her hair up in that ponytail, and I did see a tweet about this, and I can't remember. Might have been you, Mike? No, I don't think so. Wait, but I thought this too, and I was like, wait a minute. My head goes to like, that's what you do when you're about to suck a dick. Like you put your hair back and you're like, let me get ready. And she was like already like face to face with Wolverine. I was like, she about to, oh no, we're good. Okay.
Okay. I like that you thought it was me. B, it was not me. C, I would tweet that though. Yeah.
You would.
So, great. Just so
we should not be surprised in a couple of days when someone uses the GIF. Probably me, but someone's gonna make the GIF, and we should all be prepared for when that becomes the new universal. It's time for me to get to business.
I mean, but I love that they like redid scenes from the cartoon, but with the like weird faceless stuff. I thought that looked so cool. And it like worked so well because it's like, oh, I remember this. Oh yeah, I remember this. But they were like making it look like weird because it's a fucking mind battle, and sure, shit's gonna look weird. And like that
it easily catches people up to speed on Jean Grey if they didn't watch the original, but it had those like little nuggets for people who were looking for something different. Yeah. I think they do a really good job with what you just said specifically. Like us being like, yeah, we watched this cartoon as kids, like, oh, we love X-Men, like might get more out of it, but like it still like kind of pushes people who maybe don't know all of this into it, and like you get it, right? Which is like, I do think that's not easy to do with something that has such like a long history and such like convoluted storylines, which I say complimentary because I love them, but they got a lot of silly plots going on. And I think that is not an easy thing to do, and they do it really fucking well.
Yeah.
Ashley, what'd you think of the mind battle?
I really loved, and this is going to make me sound like a 5-year-old, but the color. Just like, I don't know if it's just because everything's been so gray, especially when it comes down to MCU recently. So it's just like to see them leaning into like visually, like, the closest I think we kind of got to this was maybe Wanda and Agatha, like, and it's like, there was color there, but it's like, like respectfully to Multiverse of Madness, there was so much more that they could have and should have done between the craft,
everything,
every damn thing. It's like really, testing the limits, and then the times when they are using dialogue here, Madeline still fighting against this idea. No, not your memories, my memories. It's like, and it's like, she's not, you know, she's valid because it's like, they are like, you are a whole human being and this is how you see your life. Someone can't really just come in and be like, no, actually they were mine. Yeah. So, you know, it's like, so it's, so I really just love the creative liberties that they took in illustrating it, because I think that there's a lot more than to like, they didn't, that's the reason why I think the dialogue didn't have to be as important, and they got to just like, okay, we're gonna have just make it very known how Madeline is feeling here, how Jean Grey is feeling here, and then the fact that like I can't remember how far they went into Jean Grey's back story like that in the original.
I was wondering that too. Yeah.
So it's also was really good, I think, because I feel like that's something that gets skipped until they decide to randomly do a Dark Phoenix storyline again,
right.
And then it's like, oh yeah, you know, it's like, so yes, thank you for, you know, filling people in on her backstory without us needing, you know, her to become the biggest world's threat again. That was nice. So yeah, it was also, it's like they were able to both fulfill this like Madeline versus Jean Grey thing while also use it as a plot device to fill in how did Jean Grey get this way in the first place. And very nice for Professor X to get some lines in, since his voice actor is on board but has not been seen yet. So like that was
Ashley, you point out, or you make a really good point that I wanted to bring up is, and hear me out, everybody, they do things from X-Men The Last Stand that they almost pull from that movie, but do it better. Like, I mean, in a good way, because it's like, you know, X-Men Last Stand there's a world in which it could have been good. It just fucking isn't. But like when Jean wakes up and Wolverine's there, I was like, wait a minute, this is reminding me of Last Stand. But we didn't go there. And like baby Jean Grey and like Professor X, I was curious, were we supposed to think that he did mind wipe that from her? Or was it just because the real Jean Grey was like hazy on her memory in general because she just came back?
She was hazy in general, but I do believe there had to be she had to have some like blockers or something like that because of how powerful she was, at least at some point. Unless I don't believe I'm muddling the comics and the movies there. I mean, I know for a fact that happens in the movies. Right. Like, so X says, but I want to say that at some point, just because she was too powerful, she didn't have control over her powers, and she would have
like killed people.
I don't want to say she would have outright killed people, but like she was, even at that age, like, you know, So I want to say that was something. I know it wasn't something that she needed anymore. It was just a general, like, she literally, as we saw her story, like she literally just ran from Mr. Sinister's lab or whatever the hell he had locked her away. So I do believe it was just a matter of being creepy.
Was he just like next door? Like he ran?
I know, right? They never say. It's like, because if I was her, I mean, if I was him, I would have at the very least been in another country. Like, in case you do put two and two together, you won't get here overnight, bitch. Like, give me a 6-hour head start.
They got that Scooby-Doo mansion right next to Xavier's mansion. I like got emotional when baby Jean was like, I think too much. And he was like, sometimes I do too. I was like, ugh.
Do you know what? I agree with you. However, the cynic in me made me smirk when he's like, they tell me that too. I was like, it's two dumb bitches just telling each other exactly. like that was all I could think of, because I was like, I don't know. Anytime Xavier, I don't love Xavier, so like I'm That's just fair. I'm like leave that child alone. And then he's like, somebody tells me I think too much too, and I'm like, yeah. Anyway.
All right, I thought you were going to say something filthy, and I'm like, oh, good. Oh. No, I get it.
Why do you think I'm like some like I don't
motherfucker? Because I know you.
Very sex positive.
Okay, I know you. That's fair. When are we not making like sex puns at each other?
When we're recording an X-Men podcast.
Right. Yeah, and then so that made me emotional. Then I forget. I didn't put it in my notes. What is the conceit as to when Madeline is like, all right, we're chill? I forget when, like, what brings them to that.
So yeah, oh my goodness, Jean and her are doing the fight. It was Nathan. It was basically like, you are Nathan's mother, and nobody can take that away from you. It was Nathan. Like no matter what, in terms of one memory that is 100% hers is the fact that you're Nathan's mother. And then brings her back, and that's when she tells Scott, let's go let's go save our kid.
Okay. Because I did like that. I liked that when they fight Sinister, because I like this in the cartoon. I always thought it looked cool that like Sinister would kind of get these like weird like Terminator 2 like holes in him when he'd get blasted, but then they just like congeal back. I thought they made it look grosser, and I liked that.
Yeah.
Right? Like when Cyclops hits him, it's like it looks a little gross. It's like melting and like
his like chest cavity's like open. It's gross.
Yeah. And I will say they wrapped that part up pretty fast, but so what? Who cares? That's fine. That wasn't like the main.
Remember, Mr. Sinister is technically not a mutant, so it's like, I mean, I know he can take the X-Men, he has, but it's like he's not going to be a match for Jean Grey's clone. Like,
and I mean, we know he'll pop up again. I feel like he was such a big presence in the like original cartoon. I'm sure this is like a hint of Sinister, and we'll get more of him in something else. Which I do always forget that he's not actually a mutant. Ashley, that's a good point. And then we go back to the mansion, and Madeline has to say goodbye to her baby. And I fucking cried. I'm not going to lie. I was like, man, I feel so bad for this lady. Like within like 24 hours, she gave birth, found out she was a fucking clone, had to give her baby up to a time traveler. Maybe is getting a divorce as well. Like,
but you know what? She got her figure back in 24 hours. I mean, like she's fine. She has a new name. She is ready to go. Sorry, I cut you off, Gabby.
I mean, I'm circling back to what I already said, which is that I'm struggling to believe that she was like, oh my God, my baby has to go to the future. No one can go as well. Well, I'm going to get the fuck out of here then.
I 100% agree.
I feel like there was an agreement where they could have shared Cyclops. That could just be my own personal opinion. I'm sure monogamous people may not share that, right? But at the very least, her leaving that fast was just a little too quick. It was really jarring. I want her to stay, obviously, just because she was great. But like, are you gonna wait for the baby to come back? Are they gonna call?
What's the plan for that, right?
Back? Yeah. It's time travel, so he could come back whenever.
Because I was like, technically speaking, like
he could come back in like 2 seconds. Yeah,
that's what I was thinking. I was like, even though it could be years for them, you could literally like raise Cable and be like, hey, once we get this underway, this is the exact time period to get, because we know Bishop has to be back, because I doubt they would put him in the opening credit and then have him in 2 episodes of the series. So it's like, so yeah, I mean, it's and the Cable was in the first, was in X-Men 92. So like, you know, maybe at some point they realize, so I don't know, but like they technically could have Cable they could have had Cable come back just like 2 seconds later. But you know, time travel has different rules depending on what you're watching. So
it
for
really
sure.
depends.
But she didn't even wait around to find out.
She sure didn't.
Take the baby. Bye.
Also, the portal was big. Why didn't she just run? I don't know. I would have ran behind him. Like, let me see.
It looked like there was plenty of room.
Right?
Like, let me only pick you and the baby, because
there were a lot of excuses. They just wanted that kid gone. I did like the line though, and I wrote this down from Bishop. Time isn't history. It's always writing. Flipping back a few pages, rewriting things, skipping forward. Like that to me was the first time I think time travel in media has like made sense to me. I have a big problem with Back to the Future because like he goes back in time and like almost hooks up with his mom and remembers it, and it's just like all of it. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense.
Is
but
that
like,
the plot of Back to the Future?
I mean, yeah, it's a plot point. It's not. But yeah,
Gabby, have you not seen it?
His mom, his mother as a teenager falls in love with her son, played by Michael J. Fox, when he goes
because they're the same age in the past.
He's not allowed to tell her, "Hey, I'm your son," but like she's hitting on him. I think they make out.
This is the plot of 17 again.
Oh, yes, it is. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. But it's a lot like this was the first time it made sense for me because like I'm an editor, and so like a lot of times I'll be working on the front of the movie and like changing an actor's performance, and then like I don't know, somehow it like made sense to my brain finally. And if everyone else is like time travel has never like been a hiccup for me, Mike, what are you talking about? Great, congrats. But that line to me was This was a very important episode in
It
in
felt
my
like
life,
an
apparently.
important line, for sure.
It did. I do feel like it felt like an important line. Like we will circle back to that exact like point he was making.
Yeah.
Then Madeline gives her name, which I do wish there was like a little like reason, like where'd she get that from? But fine, whatever. I don't care that much. And then we get our little kicker at the end. I am who I am, right? So no one's surprised that Ian Carlos Crawford loves Storm's punk look. Like, that is not shocking to anybody listening. That is not shocking to anyone here. But I was very fucking excited to see her in the literal costume she wears when she has her like punk look, because I fucking love that look.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes. I don't know why it didn't even occur to me that we were going to get it, even though like fucking duh, she has the mohawk. She left the X-Men to wear her like street clothes, like her normal people clothes, instead of her superhero costume, because she's like at a fucking bar. And I was excited when we saw Forge too, because I didn't know, we'd only seen him in the future. What were you gonna say, Mike? Sorry.
Oh, I had a question, because Bishop is taking Cable to Forge, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So like now it's like, is Forge not there? Like, are they?
It's different time, right? So then is Storm gonna run into Cable? Like, are they gonna loop back around?
I'm really wondering what they're gonna do, because in the comics, I didn't realize this was when Forge is introduced, was the Storm losing her powers storyline.
Oh, okay.
But in the comics, it is that he created the like gun thingy that takes her powers away.
Okay. Got it.
So I wonder how they're going to, because I mean, clearly they're changing it a little bit because they just introduced him in this timeline, in the like present day, past, whatever. And yeah, I don't know. But they were a couple when I started reading the comics. So I've always been partial to Forge and Storm, just because like they were an established couple when I started reading X-Men in like 1993. And I always remember, this is going to be so stupid, but the reason I really liked, the X-Men, I want to say the Fleer trading cards, they would have like famous battles, and it was Storm versus Mystique. And, you go on the back of the cards and it'd tell you why they hate each other, their stats, how they fight. And I remember the reasoning just being they both want to be dating Forge. And like, that's what the trading card said. And I was just like, yeah, I get it. Okay, yeah, they fucking hate each other because they want to date the same dude. Which, like, as an adult is like, that is ridiculous. But again, we love that the X-Men are ridiculous.
Especially in like, you're like coming up against bigotry, and like most of the team is just like beefing over like romantic squabbles.
Yeah. Like, we got a lot going on. Maybe let's not fight about that. They have time for like the pettiest drama while also dealing with like the biggest drama.
I mean,
right? Like Morph is doing his thing. He's like switching the times. Like, when did you have the time?
You're right. Like,
I mean, that's the best example I've heard to make a case for it being a queer allegory, is that we are just fighting over petty sexual issues while we are facing bigotry.
All right, so we're at the end here. Favorite scene for this episode, Mike?
Well, I mean, I already wrote a dissertation on the pretty girl transformation from Madeline, the Goblin Queen. I loved that scene. There we go. Yeah.
Gabby?
It was like from the coochie shot and to the like getting shot, like that whole part was just so horny. They put that part in for me. That's it.
Gabby, I'm really looking forward to your fucking Madeline Pryor cosplay that you do.
Ooh,
maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, the problem is that I was seeing Storm and I was like, she's going through an arc. Whatever like final form she comes up with, that might be it. But yes, it's Madeline Pryor right now. That was my first thought.
Ashley?
You know what? For me, I think I'm going to make it after the first time Jean Grey stops Madeline after she terrorizes everyone in the house, and then immediately after she passes out, because it was like, we went 2 episodes of Madeline not passing out and it didn't hit me, and we've gotten you back for 2 episodes and you passed out both times. Thank you for reminding me what makes the real Jean Grey, because it didn't even dawn on me, and I'm so ashamed of that. I'm still kind of upset that came out, and like I should have called it that was Madeline when I should have called it, and I didn't call it until you passed out on the front set. And I'm so sorry, Queen, but thank you for making sure you've been consistent both episodes.
Yeah, I think mine is the 3-minute sequence I sent Zach because I loved the horror. I loved them being in separate spots. I love that their placement in the mansion also helped like what their horror sequence was, you know. Morph was in the locker room, so it's the locker room setting, and like the Sunspot and Jubilee are watching the TV, so it's in like whatever million living rooms they have, one of them. I was like eating that shit up, and I have rewatched that sequence a lot. And I genuinely keep thinking, like, as a kid, if I had watched this, because a big thing I used to do is I would watch something and I'd play that plot with my X-Men toys.
Oh yeah.
And like I would do variations of the Dark Phoenix saga like all the time. I would have absolutely played this plot so many times. Like, ooh, different X-Men. I would just have it be like different characters each time, like in the mansion during like haunted spooky shit. Yeah, so that was my favorite. We'll probably all have the same, but what grade do we give this episode, Gabby?
A+.
Mike.
It was perfect.
A+, A++++.
Ashley?
Yeah, I'll just give it an A because, you know, I need just a wee bit more Storm to give them the plus. But, you know, don't get me wrong. I know why there wasn't Storm, but you still got to have Storm in there if you want the plus from me. But obviously it was an excellent episode.
That is a fair point.
That is a fair point. I give it an A+ as well. I'm genuinely having... Ashley, we've covered a lot of Marvel shows together, and we've both loved a lot of them. This is, I think, the most fun I'm having covering something.
I think it's the fact that we're going in actually able to know, like, like, you know, it's been so hit or miss. You'll have those episodes where it's like, this was fantastic. They'll have some, oh, it was pretty good. It was okay. Yeah, it was pretty. And then this has just been one of those unanimous, and I don't want to, it's actually to a point where I'm like a little afraid of, I don't want there to be a bias now that I'm having so much fun that I'm not able to critique it. Cause like, you know, but it is at the same time, it's like, it's being done so genuinely well. I'm just going in knowing I'm about to have a good time, which sadly enough, I can say with some of the other stuff we've been looking at, it's been a hit or miss. So I think, it's like it's been a minute since we felt this way. Yeah.
You know what? You saying that, Ashley, I just thought of this also because each episode so far has had their own complete story. Yeah. It's not just like, well, we're weird. This episode's done, but the story, no, it's not anywhere near.
Yeah, and it's also just like, you know, there's always some connection to some, you know, much as I love Loki, it's always this bigger idea of the fact that this is supposed to be connected to the bigger Marvel Cinematic Universe. And like, oh my God, like even TVA is going to be in Deadpool. It's like, it's always this like trying to keep all the stories together so you know how, you know, and it's like here, it's just like, shit, you could have missed the first 2 episodes and just jumped into this one and you're good.
You're fine. Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with that.
I will say real quick, Ian, I haven't seen you smile this much in a while about something you've covered, so that's really refreshing. Despite all the haters that attack your comments, fuck them, but you look happy and I like seeing that. So I think everyone else will agree with me on that, at least.
Thank you. That's very sweet of you, and I don't know what to say to that, but thank you. That's very nice.
Make you blush. Make you blush.
Thank you all for joining me. Thank you all for listening. I am... Like, you really did, like, get me, like...
That's my mutant ability. That was dumb. Oh, what a bad out. Sorry.
If you like Slayerfest 98, you can find us on YouTube, where you can watch all these episodes because I'm doing more video recordings now. And you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. If you are trying to download Magicians Season 1, Episode 2 on Apple Podcasts, I will let you know I have no idea why it's not working. I've contacted Apple and they have not gotten back to me. It works on every other platform, though. And for some reason, the download numbers for that one episode are like quadrupled, which I'm sure has something to do with it not working. So just if anyone's wondering, I have no idea what the issue is. If you like us and you want to support us, you can find us on Patreon, where we're going through Buffy Season 3 and Batman the Animated Series, and eventually X-Men the Animated Series. I've recorded a bunch. I just haven't had a chance to put them out. And if you want to follow us on social, we are at SlayerFest X98 on all social media platforms. I am at Ian X Carlos on all social media platforms. Gabby, where can everyone find you and your stuff?
At Gab Alexa on all platforms.
And Mike, where can everyone find you?
At Michael Ryan P on all platforms, and then you can find my editing on MikePattersonEdits.com.
An editor with a capital E. You are Mike is so good at his job.
Right.
Ashley, where can everyone find you?
Ashley K. Smalls, all platforms. I'm trying to make the switch to Threads, so I don't know. Everybody randomly decide that that's where we're going. Most active on TikTok. And then also not relevant to my socials, but Beyonce's album drops in 2 hours from when we are recording this. And then by the time you guys hear this, it'll be live. So if you have not yet, please stream Cowboy Carter. Thank you so much. Matter of fact, you can just do that, and that would be supporting me. You don't even have to talk about that. Would be, you can just...
I have to say, Ashley, you are like one of the only stans of a pop star who is like, I find it very endearing. Like I find your love of Beyonce, like I get annoyed at a lot of the gays online who like want to fight about their pop stars. And you're just like, no, I love her.
Yeah, I don't care what anybody else is doing. They can argue about some stats and numbers. If ain't nobody else there, please know I'm there. I don't know what's going on. And the only reason why I can't do my old stand days is because I have a job and I need to keep my benefit. So I cannot afford to fight with people who have homework to do. So I just have to enjoy the music.
Drop the alt account. I want to follow that where you just light people up online. Didn't deny it, folks.
Oh shit. I'm always like, Ashley's the nicest stan. Like Ashley's a fucking sweetheart, but she is like a true fucking stan. And I get a kick because so many like, right, Mike, so many of the gays are just like, I like this pop star, so I'm gonna shit on everything you. And it's like, all right, let's all relax. Like,
and also, like, thankfully, I love Beyonce, but I wouldn't want to fuck with the Beehive at all. So, like,
listen, I know who I was. So the fact that they're even worse now, like that's like, oh.
I feel like all of the big huge pop stars, their stands scare me. Like, I don't even want to name any others because we're speaking lovingly right now, but. You know,
we love them all. Please don't.
Yes. But thank you all for doing this. This was so much fun. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.